call to order the Lake Township regular board meeting of June 21st, 2022 at 7 p.m. Join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the images will be coming out, so be patient with me if you would, please. Let's review the housekeeping items. Board, when speaking, please move close to your microphone to ensure you are heard clearly. For the YouTube streaming, and I request that citizens who speak to adjust the height and stand close to the microphone. There will be 2 opportunities for citizen comments. I will be requesting individuals stay within the 4 minutes in both citizen comment sections. I would appreciate everyone keeping their points concise. I would request that comments are made respectfully to the board. We are here to discuss the township's business. Citizen comments should pertain to specific issues, concerns, or policies they would like to bring to the board's attention. The documents on the website are aligned to the items on the agenda. These are draft documents to provide background information only. Just to be clear, motions were drafted to help the board more quickly get to the final wording and the vote on the respective motions. The final motion may look different to reflect the actual action taken by the board. So moving on to the next item, we have 2 sets of minutes. We have the regular board meeting of May 17th, 2022. Does anybody have any changes or comments to that, to the minutes? I have none. I spoke to Sharon and she has none. Sharon is on vacation and she's watching. I'm sure she's at some bungalow with a drink in her hand, but hope she's having fun. Any comments on the minutes?
None here.
All right, then I will make the motion to approve the May 17th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded to approve the regular board meeting minutes of May 17th, 2022. Any further discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second set of minutes is the special board meeting of June 2nd, 2022. Those are the contracts for the road work from Antrim County and the security system for our South Fire Station. Any comments or changes to those minutes? I have none. Anybody? None? All right. I will make the motion to approve the June 2nd, 2022 special board meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded to approve the special board meeting of June 2nd, 2022. If there's no further discussion on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, board. Thank you. We'll move on. Kathy, do we have any correspondence or announcements?
I have one announcement received from Antrim County regarding a Zoom webinar that they are holding on Thursday, June 23rd. It's from 12 until 1 o'clock, and the topic is septic solutions for Antrim County. So please join us to learn more about the public health and water quality concerns that come with unregulated septic systems and the policy options available for local governments to address this issue. There's an address to register at if anyone is interested. I can provide that for you.
I would like that, Kathy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like a copy of that
Okay.
as well.
Okay, I will get that to the board.
All right.
It's open, I'm sure, to the public too. If you have any interest, just give me a call, shout out tomorrow at the office, and I can provide that for anyone. So that's all, the only announcement that I have.
All right.
Oh, well, absentee ballot applications, I sent out 514. So far, I have gotten back 175. I expect to get back 513 of them, quite honestly. So people are anxious to vote in our August election, but are choosing to vote absentee, which is great.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes or comments? Hearing none, I have two. I would like to add two personnel-related items. It'd be number 12 and number 13 with the board's permission. Is there any objections?
Is that under board action, right? 12
Yes.
and 13?
Yeah. I will be adding, number 12 is the hiring of the clerk accounting assistant, Deb Broderick. You have her application on your desk board, and I will go through her background at that time. Additionally, I would like to add as number 13, the nomination of Sheila Wright as a member of the Day Park Committee. So those would be the two changes I'm adding. If there's no other changes, then I will make the motion that the agenda be accepted as presented with changes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jason. You sound like my second tonight, right?
Yeah.
It is moved and seconded that the agenda is accepted as presented with changes. Any further discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the next item, citizen comment. We didn't have the forms, but I know we have two people. The first
Well, I
person,
have them now.
you have the forms?
Mhm.
All right, well, they can fill them up after.
Okay.
First one is Bob Spencer.
Right,
Second one will be Tom Stillings.
right.
And the third one is Tom Peterson.
Jairus is in there
Jairus
also.
is- All right, well then,
Oops, so we need a couple more then, I
yeah,
see.
we want Bill Peterson.
It's over there.
Bob?
Bob,
Bob.
over there, sweetie. Over there. Over there.
Testing. Can I go after Tom? Okay, good evening. Bob Spencer, 709 Northwest Torch Lake Drive. Rumor has it maybe a temporary address. Anyway, I'm here to talk about noise. But first, a little history. About 6, 7, 8 years ago, Alan Martell was supervisor. He came to me one day, we were just talking about stuff. He says, I've got some concerns about the future, and the kind of issues we're going to be facing in this township. And they're complicated, and I'm trying hard to plan for them. So think about it. So that new Meyer store that they're building, that's going to have an impact on our township. That Flint Fields Equestrian Center is becoming a vacation destination for first types, and that's going to have an effect. And there's more and more people from outside the township looking to buy property in the township on the lakes and in Milton Township and Milton Rapids Township, because they're out-of-state investors who get a better return on renting property to vacationers than they get on their investments. And there were other things, but I think Alan was spot on those things. Another thing that came up was EMS services for our Torch Lake Township residents, but I don't want to dwell on that. That's not my primary point. But the first time I heard about these problems was from Alan Martell. I think our experience today makes him right in his crystal ball. But back to noise. You know, noise is sound that people don't like. sound is noise that people do like. A barking dog that barks for hours in your neighbor's garage is a noise. Vehicles with open exhaust systems running street pipes, that's a noise. How about airplanes landing at 6 a.m. in the morning on the lake in front of your house? How about helicopters coming in at 8, 9, 9:30 at night, flying up and down shorelines? Is that noise? Or is that just the way it is? Torch Township currently does not have a noise ordinance. They've been proposed in the past. If you recall the past, I do because I was involved at the time. When Agaming first started having live bands in the parking lot with no tent. That was noise, in my opinion. But again, noise is in the ear of the listener. So that depends. What's happening now, in my opinion, is triggered, and the reason I'm here tonight is because there was an event at a rental property, event such as Alan predicted back when we were talking about the future of this township, where an out-of-state property owner who happens to live in Florida has a piece of rental property 100 feet from my lot. And he rents it out. And they had an event. They had a big tent, big event tent, and there was a lot of noise. My wife and I went to bed at right around 9 o'clock. We usually jump in bed and read for a while and fall asleep. Anyway, we started hearing this thum, 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 thum. I don't know what the heck is that. So I go outside. It's noise coming from the event tent. And long story short, there were 30 to 40 cars on the property. There were 50 to 60 people in and around the event tent, and the noise went on. I called Bob Cook. I asked him to see what he could do about that. I asked him to involve Bob Hawkins, the ordinance enforcement officer. I called the zoning administrator assistant, Jackie, and left a message on her phone. I called the property manager, Doug Van Cura, who's hired by the guy from Florida to watch his property and take a look at things. And I called the county sheriff's department and asked them to come and see if they could stop the noise. All along that chain we don't have a noise ordinance. I know people have proposed noise ordinances in the past, and the board has rejected the concept in the past, every time. I'm going to encourage you to try to get a police power ordinance that deals with noise responsibly and fairly and objectively. That's my recommendation tonight.
Thank you.
So.
Thanks, Bob. You hit it right on 4 minutes. That was good. Mr.
I,
Stillings.
for one, feel safe when that Coast Guard helicopter goes by. I think that's a good noise.
I do too, but I'm not talking about.
I'll just give you a hard time.
You would never.
Okay. Really two subjects tonight. One is, the upcoming primary election, and we're very fortunate here. For the first time in the 30 whatever years that I've been kicking around this place, we have a county commissioner that actually shows up at our meetings,
Yes,
tells us what's going on,
yes.
asks us what we need from him or from the county. It goes about the business of getting it done as much as one commissioner can do. And also at the same time is fiscally conservative. He's proposed a tax cut for the county. When we found out that Antrim County, on a per capita basis, has more money in the bank not being used and not required for immediate or even near future needs than any other county in the state. Per capita. I'm sure Detroit's got a couple more bucks. But this man has done a great job, and like nothing that I've seen before. So I want to commend him in public. I want to ask everybody to consider keeping him around for another term. So much for that. Thank you.
Yep.
The other item is this, the airport thing. Now, I don't know if there's some kind of vendetta going on here or what the deal is. I don't really care. But the money that you're talking about spending, an initial 20,000, possibly more, 20, 30,000 more beyond that. I read the contract. It reads like something my ex-wife would put in front of me. This is not good. They can spend money and without even telling us, and we're obligated to pay for it. That's not the way it's ever worked when I had a lawyer. If I'm paying the bill, it's really bad. The other objection that I really have with it is there's no reason for it. The Michigan Aeronautics Commission has all this information for free. They're there to guide you. Airports are strange things. I've spent time on this body, and I spent 7 years on the Planning Commission, and we always had occasional stuff come up about the airport. So, things may be a little different today, but basically the federal and the state inputs are probably not changed all that much. And the way it shakes out, the municipality, in this case, our township, actually has more responsibilities for things like controlling the zoning around the curtilage of the airport to make sure that there's no hazards. Nobody's putting up a 16-story building that a plane's going to run into, But that's all there. It's all in both federal and state law, and you get it all for free. So if you really got that $40,000 or $50,000 burning a hole in your pocket, do something useful. Give our firefighters or our EMTs a raise. Thank you.
No problems. Thanks, Tom. I think as we go through, absolutely. As we go through when we get to that point, I'll be able to respond to you. Do you have some extras now?
So Jairus?
Jairus, yes. I was talking about we're handing out the agenda packages. All right, Jairus.
Yeah, a couple things. As you probably know, Atwood Road is being resurfaced. It's 5.24 miles in length, and the total estimated cost is going to be $1.1 million. Essex Road, I've gotten a lot of complaints about since I've become a commissioner, and I couldn't get any county money to help fix it. So I reached out to Wayne Schmidt's office, and I've been informed that he has $1.6 million in the budget for Essex Road. So as long as the House doesn't take it out, and as long as the governor doesn't line item veto it, maybe next year, cross your fingers. Hydrology study is being released tomorrow. It's another Zoom
Yeah.
webinar. It's on the county website, 4 p.m. I don't remember if I told you before the 3 questions that were asked of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, so I'll just go through those real quick. First question that was asked is, what controls the lake levels of St. Clair and 6 Mile Lakes? The second question that was asked, what would happen to lake levels if we dredged the Intermediate River from Intermediate Lake to the Blair Dam? And the third question, what would happen to lake levels if we dredged the Torch River at the confluence with the Rapid River? So our Mark Stone, our dam operator, our drain commissioner, he was allowed to submit 3 questions to the Army Corps of Engineers at the outset of the study, and we're hoping to get some sort of an answer to those 3 questions, along with other observations. They measured lake levels, especially after rains, heavy rains. I mean, one rain we got was 5.7 inches in one night, and the lake rose 7 inches the next morning. there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and it's going to be really interesting. So it's tomorrow. It's a Zoom. You can sign up for a Zoom webinar. It's at 4 p.m.
Are those Mark Stone's questions? Those three you just gave me?
Those are the questions that were asked, and he had a hand in formulating them. I don't know if, I didn't ask him if he took 100% ownership of those questions or not, but those are I'm sure he took input from the commissioners at the time.
But he
And
knows how the flow happens, is the reason I bring that up. So if he's asking that question, dredging those in some way is okay. He wouldn't ask if he could dredge it if it wasn't okay, because he knows that flow. That's why I'm asking. Are those his questions?
the questions I received in an email from him.
Okay.
Yes. Petoskey Stone Festival, I was there last month, and Stan Moore had me help judge the rock skipping contest. So if you want to be in the final four, you have to get at least 10 skips. So you can tell your kids.
Oh, wow.
Barnes Park, Mr. Cook, you asked me to look into a possible traffic signal.
Yep.
I spent a fair bit of time on that actually this last month. Bert Thompson does not make that decision. The Michigan Department of Transportation engineer does, but he submitted that question to them. And then they had a follow-up question. How many camping places do we have now? Approximately 83. And the beach house, or the bathhouse there is, I guess, rated for 160. And in the CIP plan, they're hoping to make 160, but I believe that's a 2-year plan, depending on getting contractors to do the work. So the plan is to go to 160 campsites, and so that could potentially almost double the traffic that comes in and out of that road.
Right.
Bert did go down here and just observe it, and he says, I've had other such studies done, and he says there's not enough traffic right now to justify it, but he said that he is also submitting the fact that Barnes Park is planning to approximately double in size. Now, whether we'll sell all those campsites during the summer, we don't know that 2 years from now, but they're going to be available, hopefully.
Well, and this is really not the perfect time to be taking a traffic sample. I mean, it's that July 1 through Labor Day that you ought to be looking at what's going on down there.
Friday night.
So maybe he could do a couple more, or they can set up one of those,
Traffic counters.
yeah. But that, looking at it just after Memorial Day is not going to be reflective of what takes place during those 2 months.
Also, the Antrim County Road Commission, this morning they had a meeting and they voted to purchase the automatic lane closers. So if one lane needs to be closed down, they set up that little thing with the light so that they don't have to have a flag man standing there. Different road commissions have had road commission workers that have been hit holding the flag sign. So number one, it's a safety thing. Atwood Road, they had a culvert go out. They rented those machines, $8,000 for 28 days. And we purchased the whole machine for $78,000. We got a my deal price. So we don't have to use it a whole lot of times before we got it paid for. And he says, now that the Antrim County Road Commission has it, we can keep more of our guys out of those situations. So it will hopefully improve our safety rating.
Good.
That's all I got.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Bill?
Just a couple things on the EMS recruitment, and eventually it will become fire, I'm afraid. I believe that the township needs to do whatever is needed to not only support the current staff that we have, but also the future staff and future recruitment. This township has always been big on having their own EMS staff in-house, and they've always been very appreciative far as our fire department as well. And we're at a pivotal time with what's going on with the world, people leaving their jobs, going to what, who knows? But we need to get ahead of this, in my opinion, and whatever needs to be done, and whatever tools that we can give them to increase their toolbox needs to be done. Secondly, on the, I don't know what item it is, but on the airport attorneys, couple things. I question why we need to spend the amount of money and sign this contract. We already pay for a township attorney. We've got Beckett and Rader. We've got Sarah here doing our zoning administration. We've even used Steve Langworthy in the past to help guide us, even at the planning commission level, through tricky situations. None of them come up to the dollar amounts that I read in this contract. And at the very least, being short a board member tonight, at the very least, I would ask you to table this for a month, because I would like to hear from our treasurer, who we all know is always on top of the money, what her thoughts specifically on this are. And I'm sure as you guys get into board discussion, there'll be more things here brought to light about this tonight. But when I read through the contract and I look at the numbers, and I think to myself, you know, as tight as the economy's getting, as much as the community, if they're not suffering some and feeling inflation now, they will be shortly, I'm sure. And I can think to myself, there's a lot better things this township could do than sign itself up for a $20,000 bill at this point in time. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Tom? Okay.
This young lady, I don't have her name yet, but I will.
We'll get the name.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Zelenak, and I am the new executive director at the Antrim Conservation District. And I'm here to invite you to a Lake Leadership Summit out at the Torchlight Cafe in August. I've been to Lake Jerris, lots of meetings regarding different political things and so forth. And the goal with this Lake Leader Summit is to get the people who care about our lakes together in one place and brainstorm and see if we can find some solutions regarding the septic, the fertilizer, the things growing in the water that none of us want to see. When I was a kid, Torch Lake was crystal clear. Today, it's not. So as the executive director at the Conservation District, I am focusing hard on that and trying to engage as many people as we can to care about the health and the quality of our water. So that's it. I'll let you know the date. I'll come back next month with a flyer and let you know what's going on and keep you posted and hopefully see you all there.
Melissa,
Thank you.
could you
Thank you.
spell your last name for me?
Zelenak.
Do you know when in August that is?
We are waiting to hear back from the cafe on an open date, but it'll probably be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because nobody, wants to party on a weekend, but we want to keep it business.
Well, before you leave, there's no free announcement here. I've got one thing I need a favor for.
Okay.
We have before you, I believe, there's a letter sent to you from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, I think. And it's related to the road end in the nature preserve. And we're looking at doing some work there, and you're one of the people that need to help us sign off of that in 45 days. So if I can get your number, I can give you a call and give you more information on that. That's fine. All right, thank you. All right, any other comments?
One quick one. John Roth is interested in helping us with the nature preserve.
Oh, all right. Okay, that's fine. Well, give me a buzz tomorrow. All right, and fill me in on that. All right, thank you, everybody, for your comments. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull any of the reports? Alan, Jason, Kathy? All right, well then, all the reports are hereby accepted by consent. Move on to the next item. Special reports. Jason, anything on the planning commission?
Yes. We had a request for a short-term rental permit application that we talked about and granted. The gentleman had some house rules for his rental, and we all went through them and made some changes and made it to where we felt comfortable. So,
That was it, right?
yeah,
Okay.
that
Are
was it.
those rules part of the acceptance,
Um,
or are they just his rules?
they're his rules that his renters have to go by. And we went through them and made some changes to, as far as like the curfew and how many parking spots and whatnot.
But they're not part of the motion to accept that.
I think
They
it
were,
was.
Are they?
they were
Yeah,
part of it.
I think it was.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, Kathy, FOIAs,
Mhm.
your favorite subject.
It got
Almost.
real favorite today when I received an email. We have had an ongoing FOIA that we kind of had on hold, waiting to hear from the requester to see if they wanted to proceed with the FOIA because there was going to be a cost to them to do so. And I did hear from them today and they've given us the go-ahead. So they are asking us to proceed with their FOIA request, which is basically about the airport.
About the airport. Yep. All right. Anything else?
That's the only FOIA right now. Thank
right.
you.
Good. I'll give the financial overview. I continue to modify the financial summary page, excuse me, based on input from our citizens. So this month's is a new look, as I have indicated in the past. Any questions regarding the financials can be directed either to myself or the clerk's office. May cash flow was negative by 74,000, slightly worse from last year, but favorable to the budget by 95,000. May year-to-date cash flow was flat year over year and under budget related to the timing of capital expenditures, and we had some extra revenue from tax collections that I mentioned last month. The specific line item details can be found on the website under our board meeting information. The file is called Fund by Detail Line. Our cash position remains in good shape as the treasurer's report indicates a balance in the general fund of 1.1 million. For the fire fund, 508,000, the ambulance fund, 602,000, and the road fund, 297,000. Just as a reminder, our taxes are collected primarily between December and February, so we will see a continuation of negative cash flows for the next 6 months till the next series of tax collections begin. So that's my report for that. Moving on to the next item, for board action, we have no old business. We have 11 items to consider under new business.
13.
Well, yeah, I wrote 13, but we haven't approved the other 2 yet. They'll be added. We have quite a few items tonight. I think we'll be able to get through them, though. There's a couple items as already identified that we'll have some discussion around. So moving on to the first item. Mike, since you are here, I'm not going to call you up. So on the first item, it's the review of the credit collection contract with Merchants and Medical Credit Corporation. Our EMS director, Mike Bertram, has handled the discussions of the first 2 items on our agenda, this being the first. They have been reviewed by our attorney and his questions have been answered by Mike. It is Mike's anniversary, so for some reason he is here tonight. And my comment was he wisely chose not to, but I guess he figured out how to get around that. So the agreement with MMCC is new for us, but they have worked closely with Acumed, who is our current billing service provider. So are there any questions regarding the collections contract?
Is that one, this is delinquent? What? These are delinquent?
Yes, the delinquent ones.
And so Acumen does not have a department that deals with those? No. That's right. Thank you. I just picked that out of my, way back in my head. Okay, so this is and you've been using this at,
Yeah, we're looking at doing it now.
For TAA.
Yeah.
so we're going to be the test on that?
No, they've been working with Acumen for a long time.
Okay. What do
So
they,
I'm very comfortable with that.
they take half?
I think it's almost half, it goes to the church, otherwise it's 25%.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to accept the credit collection contract with merchants?
I make a motion to approve the contract with Merchants and Medical Credit Corporation effective June 22nd, 2022, with a 30-day termination notification by either party upon written notice.
I'll second that. Thank you, Jason. The motion has been moved and seconded to accept the credit collection contract with Merchants and Medical Credit Corporation effective June 22nd, 2022, with a 30-day termination notification by either party upon written notice. Is there any discussion around the motion?
Nobody talked to me about this. I just,
You know, there's always one in every crowd, always one, and it's different every month. Is there any discussion with the motion?
Mike, just ballpark, how long does it go before it goes into collection? Do you know, is it a couple months?
No, it's usually 90 days.
Oh,
not
90? Okay,
Yeah, they're sitting on our money for a long time.
okay, all right, thank you.
Kath, any questions?
No.
If not, then Kathy, would you conduct a roll call vote, please?
I will. Jason, you're first.
yes.
Bob, you're second.
Yes?
I am third. I will say yes. And Alan?
Yes,
Thank you, board. Moving on to our second contract. That is with Acumed. That is a renewal. Mike, I will let you explain that one because you can take the credit for what you did. Would you go up to the mic, please?
Okay, on the Acumen contract, we've been running a year without a contract. It just continued on a month-to-month basis. But I negotiated with them to reduce it to 3 years, and I reduced the reduction of the billing fee from 8% down to 7 point.
7.5, I thought.
No, I think it's less.
7.25?
7.25. So it's to me, it's a win-win situation. Actually, Dave came here, spent a lot of time with Ted in regards to billing, and we've been working with them really closely. A nice chit chat with the CEO, as well as the person that's representing our department, and they've been absolutely fantastic. So to get them down to 3 years, because of the way the environment has changed, I don't like long-term contracts. I'm uncomfortable with that, so I got them down to 3 years. So to us, it's a win-win situation
why did they reduce the fee?
because I asked them to.
So that was a carrot, and it's okay.
It was an incentive to them because we don't do a lot of business with them. So I said, why are we paying what a person that does 100,000 runs a year?
Okay. Okay,
It is 7.25.
Okay, 7.25, right?
Yep.
So that's better than 8. It's more money in our pocket.
So is there a motion to approve Acumed Billing Services?
Sure, I will make that motion.
All right, Kath.
To
Motion-
approve the renewal of the billing service agreement with Acumed Billing, Inc. with a 3-year term.
All right, thank you. Is there a second? I will second it. Motion has been moved and seconded to approve the Acumed Billing Inc. Services Agreement for a 3-year term. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Kathy, would you have a roll call vote, please?
I will. Alan, you're first.
yes,
Jason?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And Kathy, yes. So that's a pass 4-0.
Thank you, board. We only have 10 more.
May I ask,
Yes.
I'm not to the end of it, signing these and getting them to whatever they are, who needs to sign?
I'll be here tomorrow, Patsy, so I can clear that up with you.
Okay, do you have clean copies of the contracts?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I've got them in the office
Okay.
as well.
Okay, just want to make sure they get signed and sent.
All right, item number 3. We discussed this at our last meeting during board discussion. Mike and I would like to propose a multiple option approach where Mike can choose from various options based on the candidate and/or the market conditions. We need to give Mike some wiggle room as he manages the process of filling our vacancies as they occur and not require repeated trips to the board. I also talked to our auditor, and he has approved the way the options are laid out. They meet the accounting standards that he would be evaluating them with. If we go to the document that I handed out to you guys, there were three options with a fourth one not directly an incentive, but it was creating the on-call list. So the first one was a $5,000 sign-on bonus, $1,000 at the time that they started, $4,000 after completion of a 6-month probation period. And they sign a 3-year contract/commitment with full restitution of bonus if departures before the 3-year commitment. Just as a measurement of this, if we have to keep one of our paramedics on in a vacancy, and at the time we were going through this, we had a vacancy, the overtime for 1 month approaches $5,000. So for us to be able to remain fully staffed with a $5,000 bonus program, it's basically a 1-month break even for us. It's shorter if we do the 4,000 sign-on bonus. That's an option if, in fact, the market pressure isn't at a $5,000 level. If it's at a $4,000 level, then this would allow Mike to pursue it at a 4,000 as opposed to a 5,000 and not have to come back to the board and say, we need to change it. The market conditions aren't requiring us to go to 5,000. I think, Mike, you had mentioned that a number of different townships are looking at this as a vehicle to be competitive, to get paramedics. And let's face it, if we're down, we don't have a backup vehicle. So if we're down and we can't put a paramedic on that bus, we're down to the basic life support system. So it's critical for our service that we have the ability to meet that. So those are 2 of the incentive programs that we would like to employ. The third one is one for employees. If they bring forth a candidate that we end up hiring, they get a $250 payment at the time that the person starts, and after they complete the 6-month probation period, they would get the other $250. Finally, I would like to direct the EMS director to create an on-call list for the paramedic fill-ins at a rate of $26 per hour. That overtime payment must be reviewed with the supervisor prior to on-call personnel receiving overtime. I want to make sure that we've got a list that, in fact, we don't run into the situation where the same person keeps signing up if we're short and we end up paying overtime for that person, because that would be a pretty big rate. The overtime for our paramedics right now at time and a half is roughly $30 an hour because our base rate is $20. So this would be a cheaper rate than paying the overtime and help us kind of stay on budget by filling that opening. So board discussion.
I'm going to ask some silly questions, Mike. I'm a paramedic, and other EMS departments are considering the same thing. So at the end of 6 months, when I get my bonus, I jump to another township and pick up the same issue.
If they get the bonuses, we put in this proposal, they have to stay with us for 3 years for the 5,000. So they can't jump ship after 6.
So it's holding up. How would this affect our current employees? They don't get a bonus.
It would not really affect them currently because of the fact that we are paying a very competitive wage right now compared to the other departments around us. $20 an hour for a paramedic is pretty good. I saw one here recently from Long Lake Township where they were advertising, I think, $59,000 for a paramedic, Al. And that was for 106 hours in a 2-week period. So that came out to $1,820. You look at 59,000, you go, oh my God, that's a lot of money for a paramedic, but that's not the case. So by being competitive with our wages and by doing this, it really doesn't affect your departure rate. They usually
Okay.
don't leave. They usually stay pretty happy. So it doesn't usually have that cause of, that's a really good question.
We don't have a lot of demand. I mean, they're not real busy, but when they're busy, it's important, of
Right,
course.
yeah, just, yesterday they had 2 calls.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
The on-call list, and so that people, the same person doesn't keep volunteering to be on there because they could overdo the hours. You have enough
right.
people that
So
would be on that
non-call
list?
Yeah, we have a couple people that are interested in that, but they can only sign up for 1 shift a week to be on
Okay,
call.
okay.
So they would pick a day, and if a person calls in that day or somebody wants a vacation day, they would come in and work it. But they can't sign up for another shift.
The
That cuts the overtime off.
the one-time thing I think about is eventually people are going to need to work, and they're going to need to come back to work.
We're
And
hoping for that.
Oh, I know, a lot more than just EMS departments.
That's why we have that other incentive in there, the 4,000. When it gets better, we can drop it down.
Okay, that's my thing. In the future, we may not have to do
We may
that.
not have to do it.
Yeah, thank you.
So is the idea for us to approve both of those, the 5,000 and the 4,000? Or to
Yes,
choose one or the
approve-
other?
No, approve all 4 of the items as
Okay.
being an incentive program.
Okay, so like you just said, if things improve, we could
Right.
drop from
We
the
can drop it
5,000 down to
And-
the
and
4.
The other caveat to this, I think it's really important. Bob and I met and talked about having a management meeting once every 2 or 3 weeks so that we can keep up to speed as to what's going on in the marketplace. Ted's going to be actively involved as well as the fire chief. This really helps us stay abreast of what is occurring in our current marketplace for EMS and paramedics, because right now, it's not looking good out there.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Just another thought for the board. The problem is there's not a lot of people graduating. And so the question becomes, as a township, do you consider sponsoring someone that, you pay their education costs, whatever that is. I think it's 1 year. If they have to go through a university, it's 12 to 16,000. And then you end up having them sign a long-term type contract like this, 3 or 4 years, that allows us to recoup that cost. But I'm not proposing that, but it's going to get to that point because there just aren't a lot of candidates coming through the school. So it's just something to put in the back of your mind that we're going to have to think of other ways to get people to serve on our EMS.
We had that in the past.
Were you sponsored somebody?
Yeah, Sharon
I
got
didn't
very
know
much
that.
against it, however. She didn't like it.
Well,
But it
that's
it
fine.
brought in a
Times,
number of people. I often thought in terms of high school people, instead of going ahead and flipping hamburgers at Myers to go to college, they could get this kind of training even at the EMT level. And we're not that busy back there. They could do a lot of homework back there. I looked at that as a possibility, at least for a couple of years before they might move on to a major school. In other words, we could market that a little bit, I think. One thing that I'll mention too is We sent a letter to families, especially in the summertime, about both fire and EMS. If you got a grandson or somebody that comes up for the summer, or is going to be going to college up here and going to stay at your house, and I think we picked up 2 or 3 candidates. One, I think, might have been EMT, and I know we picked up, I think, what's the Army guy's name, Ted? Young guy. Donovan, yeah. I think that he came because that letter came out from him. Didn't pick up number, but we picked up some good people. So you can do some recruiting like that, but this issue is all over the country, so thank you.
What, that's a great idea. Why don't we'll put something out there in constant contact. I mean, I think we're up almost at 500 now. I'm sorry? Yep.
I'm not familiar with the TBA facility in Traverse, but does anyone know, do they have any kind of programs for EMS or
They deal with nursing.
nursing?
programs
Yes.
and CNAs. Now, Munson is putting on some classes, but they're not putting on EMT classes, but as far as I know.
Okay.
Putting on all the certification classes,
Okay.
like ACLS and AHA, so,
Okay.
but TBA does nursing. Yeah.
We did nursing also, but not this.
All right, any other thoughts?
Do the trustees get a finder's fee? If I recruit somebody?
Okay, and I got the last silly question. The on-call list can be made up of paramedics from anywhere?
Anyway.
Okay.
You know, we still have to vet them, of
Yeah,
course.
yes.
And they still would have to be approved by NCA, but
Okay, I'm seeing.
medical control authority.
Thank you.
So we still have to go through that process, but
And you would be doing that?
yes.
And they'd have to come to the board so that we would approve that as well, right? Okay.
Perfect.
All right, board, if there's no other discussion, I would like to make the motion to approve the EMS Paramedics Incentive Program as presented in the package document for the EMS Director to implement with the approval of the Township Supervisor. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Kathy, would you conduct a roll call vote, please?
I will. I get to be first. I say yes. Alan?
Yes,
Jason?
I think it's about time, yes,
About time what?
that we did something like this.
Oh. And Bob?
Yes. Thank you, board.
Yes, it's a good idea.
All right, item number 4. As you can see, Mike, I did the agenda so you would get the first 4 items and then you could go to dinner.
Now he's just got to go walk around the beach for the sunset.
Peanut butter pie,
You can
may
go
I
down
tell
to
you,
the
it's
nature
excellent.
preserve and walk
Oh
on the
my
beach and
God.
get a couple
Strawberry
pasta
shortcake.
stones. All right, our new paramedic applicant is not really new, as she had been on board a while back, but for personal reasons had to leave. Rebecca now is interested in rejoining, and this is a timely opportunity for us as we are down 1 paramedic. Is there any discussion around that recommendation? Feel free to ask Mike, but I think this is a great opportunity for us. If not,
Indeed.
then I will, is there a motion to hire Rebecca Boyce, please?
she worked for us before?
Yeah, remember I said that.
Yeah, I
knew-
said,
I
I'm
knew-
just trying to remember her.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. Yeah. It was.
She driving from Gaylord?
She actually lives halfway between here and Clear.
So that right there just shows you the struggle with finding people.
Right, and the thing is that she will probably do 40 hours.
Okay,
Stay right here.
makes sense.
Ellen, in your package, the last page is in her application. She was here in 2018.
I missed that.
All right, so do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to hire Rebecca Boyce as an EMS paramedic at $20 an hour, effective June 22nd, 2022.
Do I have a second?
I can second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Kathy, would you conduct a roll call vote, please?
I will. Bob, you're first.
Yes?
Kathy says yes. Alan
Yes,
and Jason?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Bye.
Mike, for coming. Yes, Phyllis, nice meeting you.
Happy anniversary.
All right. Item number 5. I enclosed a picture for your view of the tractor that no longer works. The 25-year-old multi-purpose tractor at the cemetery has finally passed on. Alan Davidson brought this up as an item for us to consider. Unfortunately, when I put the budget together, which was not real brilliant, I only put in $1,250 for this thing. The preferred brand is John Deere, and there are 2 locations that are providing competitive pricing. I am going to request that we get prices from the Williamsburg and Atwood dealerships before purchasing. Alan is also looking at a used tractor that has come available, so it could be a smaller expenditure. The only other item to bring to your attention is the fact that Sharon and Don just recently bought a John Deere, and they saw the competitive pricing between the 2 locations, and it was Williamsburg was $2,000 to $3,000 cheaper for the same model. So if the used tractor doesn't work out, Alan's going to take it to the cemetery, I think later this week. It's one of those where all 4 wheels move. So it's almost like a zero drive. If it works in the cemetery, then he's going to try to get a deal on that instead of getting a new one.
Tractor.
If he can't do that, if it doesn't work out, it's not good for the cemetery, then what I'm proposing is a $10,000 limit, because the tractor that Don got was like $8,300 or something. It was crazy. So I'm saying 10, setting it at that limit. Hopefully he can get it for less than that. And I also asked Jason what his thoughts were, so I'm going to ask him again so he can share them with the board.
That 8,300, does that include a bagging system?
Yes.
Well, then that's a heck of a deal.
I'll stand aside. I think it does, because I'm assuming that he got a bagger with it. She said it came pretty complete, but we could ask her.
I mean, can't really say much about it because I don't know what it looks like, so.
Yeah.
I recommended going to something more of a zero turn that we use with our lawn care. It will definitely save Alan time, especially from what I'm looking at here. My goodness. Do we have a plot for this thing?
I was waiting for somebody to ask if we were going to bury it out there or not. We could probably get a backhoe to do it.
But I do notice he's got a bagging system there, and I mean, if Sharon and her husband got one for $8,300 with a bagger system, that's a pretty good deal. That's probably more of a residential than a commercial mower. So
Yeah, I'm assuming, I couldn't see the number that this one was, so I didn't know what size it was. I mean, it kind of looks about the size that mine is, which nice for
steering wheel and everything.
I'm sorry?
It's got a steering wheel,
Yes, it's got a steering wheel.
so it's not a zero turn.
No. So board, we got to get a replacement. There's not enough money in the budget for it. The question is $10,000 the appropriate limit to put on this thing? Any comments?
Yeah, it just went right out of my brain, so give me a second, I'll come back.
All right?
He's gonna try the used one first though, right?
Yes.
Where's the
yes.
used one coming from?
Some friend,
Oh.
some guy he knows. And we know Alan, right? If he gets something, even if it works 80% of the time, he can make the thing work 100% of
That's
the time.
good.
So the idea is, hey, is it a good enough thing that Alan can make it work for what he needs done?
Is Alan getting paid by the hour or is he getting salary by the year?
He's hourly.
Sorry.
Alan Davidson is hourly.
He's hourly?
Yeah. But he's on multiple rates.
Then another reason why I would also recommend a zero turn, because that would he would get done way faster using a zero turn than
Well,
this
they
thing.
have one zero turn already.
Oh.
I think this is, instead of having the zero turn for some of the other projects, hauling around leaves, collecting leaves, things of that sort, this is their
Okay,
other tractor, if you will.
gotcha.
Is it something that's in stock or do they have to order it? Because
Well,
that's scary.
That's the other thing. Sharon told me that they walked into Williamsburg and there were only 2 tractors there and they didn't know when the next order was coming in and they bought it. So there's not a lot. And I guess the Atwood.
It's like that everywhere.
Yeah.
Right, for everything. That's why I was hoping maybe it was.
I mean,
something-
Ferguson and Traverse City got 1 X mark for all year. That's all they're getting.
So that, that's where we're at. So is there a motion to spend the money to replace that tractor?
Hmm.
If not, I'll make it.
Well,
Alan, what?
can we afford this?
Can we? Absolutely. It's just not in the budget. And
Okay.
we've got other things coming
Yeah,
up in the
again,
budget.
yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. It's important. It's very, very important, especially during the summer. We got to do it.
When we get on down the line, I'll have another comment to make about the dollar situation. All right, so,
I'll make the motion.
all right, thanks, Jason.
I do think that 10,000 is not enough, but we'll see what
Well, you
happens.
can make the motion. Remember, what I put down is only to get us started. So if you think we need to up the ante, then you can make that motion as you feel appropriate.
I think it should be up, make it to 15,000,
So make your motion.
just for the accommodate the bagging system. I'd like to make a motion to spend up to 15,000 to replace the 25-plus-year-old multi-purpose tractor at the cemetery. This item was budgeted for $1,250 in the 2022-2023 fiscal budget.
Do I have a second?
I can second that.
All right, Kathy?
A voice vote is
Yeah.
asked for.
So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Is everybody comfortable? I'm like freezing. Is there anyone? Shall we turn that?
Bob, could you turn that down just a tinge?
Step outside real quick,
Oh, I
Kathy.
forgot.
I know, but.
There's
I'm
2 Bobs over there.
Did they both jump up?
Your turn to,
Thank you, Robert.
all right, board, we're making nice progress. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right, item 6.
Ah,
In working with Sarah, our zoning administrator, Todd, our township attorney, in discussion with the planning commission chair, the consensus was we needed to define exactly what the township can do to regulate the activities of the airport and what activities Mr. Bays can conduct as airport operations. As I have explained it to a number of people, we need to know what the box looks like. What can Mr. Bays do inside the box, and what can the township do to keep him in the box? Todd and I met with the firm yesterday, and they believe that they can help us with an initial drafting of proposals in the next 3 to 4 weeks. That will, of course, be the first pass. The initial cost of the first pass is $3,000 to $4,000. We will have reviews internally, and then in an effort, we will work on trying to tie these boundaries into the Planning Commission's work on the master plan and any necessary ordinance that might be created to ensure that Mr. Bay stays inside the box. The $20,000 that I had there was just a ballpark. I hadn't met with these guys before yesterday, so I needed to put something in the line, and you know what attorneys are like, so I went high. I think in discussions with Todd that the 3 to 4 is going to give us the parameters that we can then evaluate a secondary set of questions for them if necessary. Otherwise, if the product is good enough for us to proceed, our costs will be less than that. My thought is that I would like to at least set a target that would be established and then would have to be reviewed and approved by the board if it were to be exceeded at the $10,000 rate. Quite honestly, their comments to Todd and I were that they have had a number of these issues, and I wouldn't say they have a cookie cutter approach, but it's basically putting up guardrails. It was interesting. They indicated that there are ways for us to handle some of the noise associated with things like paramotors, and they are big proponents of a noise ordinance. So we'll see what they come up with in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So the initial work is for $3,000 to $4,000. I will need the board's approval for at a minimum of that amount so I can get them started on the work. I would appreciate it if we could go to 10 so that as the work develops, it gives us the opportunity to go back and ask other questions. When they submit their next report, it will be reviewed with the Planning Commission chair, with the zoning administrator, Todd, and myself, and any board member who would be interested in sitting in on that. So questions from the board, please.
May I ask mine first so that my brain won't
Yep.
forget it? If we make any ordinances based on their recommendations, wouldn't Mr. Bays be exempt because he's already got his applications in, et cetera? Would he be, in other words, grandfathered because anything that we do after this would not affect him?
I'm not a lawyer. They've indicated that there are ordinances that can be created in order to control private airports by townships. Since there are no existing ordinances associated with it, I'm not sure how the attorneys work through that particular issue. That's one of the questions that we'll be asking them when they come to tell us what kind of actions we can take. Part of the picture is the FAA does have some ability to provide us some guidelines. And one of the questions that they asked us, and I did not have an answer, and I think Alan, maybe Kathy, but Alan, you may know, did Mary Ann Jorgensen and her husband ever take any FAA grant money to make improvements to the airport?
Not to my knowledge.
Well, that was my answer, because if in fact that had been the case, then the FAA regulations would have had a much bigger role in anything we try to do. And again, the idea is that Mr. Bays made a comment at the Planning Commission meeting that the airport is his and he can do anything he wants. I had a Planning Commission person come in and say, we can keep Mr. Bays from doing anything. I don't have the answer for it. And I need to spend the money. Todd is not an aviation attorney. The person who was recommended to us lives down here at the north end of Torch Lake. He's very familiar with the airport and is very interested in helping us through this particular time. So my feeling is we've got the right firm. They're known nationally as one of the top aviation attorney firms. Their billing rate indicates that they can get pretty high rates for their services. Right now, a lot of the work is going to be done by one of the associates who happens to be a person that used to work with Todd Millar and moved firms and worked on a number of different issues for the township. So there's not a long learning curve for the person who's going to be working on this.
And there's absolutely no way our Beckett and Rader can help us, or Sarah or Jackie or any of the people we already have in place?
No, because they can come to me with a lot of words, but when I ask them, am I going to win in court? They can't tell me yes. If these guys draw it up, the same question goes to them. If Tim takes me to court, are we going to win? If the answer is we're 80, 90% sure, great. If it's 50%, then I'm not sure I want to spend any more money. So that's the approach I'm taking on this thing. Any other questions?
Taking you to court or taking us to court?
Taking the township to court.
Okay.
You'd prefer me going to court.
No,
Oh,
but I just want to make sure it's not
Yeah.
just something that you were going after Tim or something, just you and him.
Well, look, we're going to have these fights. We're going to have these challenges. And at some point, we are going to end up in court for something because Tim's going to push the envelope on it. And I understand property rights. I'm really trying to circumvent a long-term dialogue between the township and Mr. Bays. And let's get it down. Here's what the township can legally do. And Mr. Bays, this is what you can legally do with your runways. Because everything else, all the property adjacent to the runways is zoned. So it's really the use of the runways. The dialogue was around whether or not Mr. Bays could allow camping on his runway. That was part of the special use permit that came in there. And he said, I can do anything I want with my runways. Well, I'm not sure that's an absolute. But I do know that we cannot restrict him 100% from using those runways for things.
And why would we?
Well, but that's just it. What I want to do is build the box. So we stop the dialogue, we stop the discussions, and we know exactly where we're playing. Because otherwise, it's going to be this and that, and everybody's got an opinion that's not a lawyer. And I'm kind of tired of getting a lot of phone calls and people telling me what we ought to be doing with the airport or not doing with the airport, because I'm not a lawyer and I don't know all that stuff. So I want to go and get people that understand it, give me the box that we can play in, and then we can work with Mr. Bays and say, hey, let's sit down around the table and let's figure this thing out.
I think that this almost seems like the cart before the horse. I kind of go along with what Bill had brought up. I wish Steve Langworthy were here right now and could say, okay, let me give you an outline of how this could go together. And here's where you'll need legal advice, and here's where you may not. And here's the kind of ordinances you might consider, and here's the kinds of things that Mr. Bays more than likely has authority over. I mean, because I really trust that man in terms of he's never given us bad information, and he understands that. And he also may know lawyers who do this kind of work as well. And because we just have one here who's extremely expensive, and I think they probably do it right. But I'd like to see a better picture of this instead of what an expensive lawyer firm comes in and says, here's what we can do for you. I also think that, and not to put a break, I'm not trying to put a stop in that. The other thing is that, I wish I had a real clear I don't remember. I went through the airport file maybe one and a half times. It's that thick. And looking at what did the planning commission put in there with regard to the original change to a air park. And I'd like to see that again. I'd like to see that and know what that is. Then I'd like somebody like Langworthy says, well, because he's dealt with airports. Here's what you might want to consider, and here's where you may need some help. And he may know this legal firm too. That's, again, I trust him. Maybe there's other consultants that can do the same thing. But I'd like it, and again, I'm not trying to put a break on it, but I think we should have more information. I think that, again, when we get, I really wish I had a picture of the history. Well, more than the history, I wish I knew exactly what the planning commission approved in terms of that air park condominium residential situation. And because I don't remember it, I just don't remember all of it. Then somebody like Langworthy or an equivalent to come in and say, okay, here's the process you might want to consider, especially as you begin to get into the master plan and how the airport fits your community and what it can and can't do. And in a legal sense, Bob, then I think you can then go to an attorney and say, okay, what can Mr. Bays do or not do? I'll give you questions. For example, the airport runways are public. Is it okay to camp on a public runway? I don't know that. I would think that Mr. Langworthy could either say what he has found or that's a question, a way to ask that question. And not to get, again, I don't want to put Mr. Bays into a box. It's an airport. My goodness, you use airports for flying, but it ought to have some kind of order to it. There also is a part in which we're talking now about, we're doing some regulation at the airport. We're going to have not zoning ordinance, but police power ordinances. I think I'm understanding that we would enforce with regard to what goes on at the airport. I never even thought about police power type airport.
What did you just say? I didn't follow that.
I didn't either.
Well, are we talking about ordinances for the control of the airport by us through police power ordinances?
I didn't say anything about the police power, but there's ordinances that can be implemented according to this firm that would allow you to have some control over the operations.
That's what I'm getting at. Those would have to be police power. Because
unless you put it within commercial, because the runways are commercial.
Correct. See, those are, again, I wish I just could see just somebody to explain, here's the picture, here's what you can do and not do, and here's what you need to have, other than an attorney.
But Mr. Langworthy did that. He did that during the rezoning. In fact, we've had 3 FOIAs.
We have a report of his?
Yeah, it was last year when Tim came in for the 32 lots to be rezoned from R1 to commercial. That we had 2 or 3 meetings related to that, and Mr. Langworthy gave a number of options for the planning commission to consider on that specific matter related to the rezoning. Had nothing to do with the airports. Now,
The rezoning of those R1s, okay.
right. So Mr. Langworthy was contacted by Todd to ask him about lawyers, and he did not have a recommendation for us. So
Again, personally, I'd feel comfortable with an ordinary folk coming in here who's done this kind of consulting to just say, here's the kinds of things you ought to think about. And then to take a look at this might be the best and the best company we could ever have. And it might be pricey, but I'd like to be more reassured of that.
yeah, but the problems I'm going to have is that we can go through all that consulting work, and you said it yourself. Once we're done with it, now you take it to the attorney and say, are we going to win?
Well, I'm not really saying that, Bob. I really need some education is what I'm asking for.
I understand that.
I want to know, I've never thought of us regulating the airport through ordinances other than zoning. That's a whole new bag for me.
Yeah.
I wish I had more education, because this might be perfectly the way we ought to go. But I actually do not know. And it is expensive, but it's the way it is. So I wish we could get some advice from somebody like Langworthy or somebody equivalent to come in and talk about what's been going on and what we need to do. And we had, I don't know, it's an airport. You gotta let the people fly, But but at the same time, there are an awful lot of concerns out there in our public with regard to making that thing sensible and reasonable and something that fits well in our community. And that the owner also can enjoy and have the use of his purchase.
Well, I spoke to Mr. Bays. He and I have had a couple of conversations, and I told him what I was going to do. And he said, that's fine. He said, I want to know what the township can do just as much as you guys want to know what I can do. So I think, again, I'm not trying to play behind the scenes with Mr. Bays. I told him, I've got people calling me and they're having disagreements. There's websites that want to argue about what's going on at the airport. My feeling is Mr. Bays has a right to run that airport that's within the guidelines established by the state and whatever the regulatory agencies are. We don't know what that is. If I get a consultant, he's going to say, well, you got this, you got this, you got this. That's fine. But I'm going to take those three things to a lawyer and say, which one of these things is bulletproof?
See, I'd like that education, though.
Well,
I would like that person to say, okay, you are going to end up with a lawyer because I can't answer all these, but here's my experience and what I have had. And then I can say, okay, we do need a lawyer, and maybe this is the law firm we go to. It's a lot of money. And I agree with Tom Stillings, and that I think there's an intermediary step in here. If Steve Langworthy can come here next week, we have a special meeting and let him kind of talk to us with regard to what we need to think about and where we're going to need some help and where we don't need some help. And then, we don't have to, I know you're in a hurry. I know you don't want to wait another 30 days, 60 days, and I agree with you. I think we got to get it in place. So I think we can get active that way in terms of some solid advice. And maybe Langworthy knows some other airport people. There's a whole section in zoning on airports and that I've read through and I still don't understand it all. And we do need some interpretations of that.
all right, that's fine. Jason.
My only thought is, why are we in such a hurry? Is he planning on doing something that I don't know about, or, because I drive by there, it's awful dang quiet there. So I don't know if we're discussing this because of the what ifs. What if he's going to do this, or what if he's going to do that? But in my opinion, it's just my opinion, but the phone calls you're getting are probably from the same people over and over again. And I understand their concerns, but I've been here my whole life, and that airport's always been quiet, and this is a lot of money here. If you add up all three of these guys' hourly rates, you're at $1,600 an hour. Well, that doesn't take long to half a day, and you're already spent that $4,000 that you're talking about if they're all three working on it together. So, and I agree with Bill. I would love to hear what Sharon's got to say. So, I don't know if she wrote a letter for you to read to all of us, but if not, then I would like to at least put it on hold another month just so I can hear what she's got to say, because she's been here a long time and I feel her words, mean a lot. So that's just my opinion.
No, that's good. All right.
Well, I was just going to go back to Alan and say he's asking for more information, some advice, whatever. And as much as the recommendation is why wouldn't we want to go to the experts first instead of spinning wheels? It seems like we've been spinning wheels on so many of these issues with the airport as it is. I mean, yes, it's a lot of money. I'm not sure I like spending it. On the other hand, I think we need to know, and I think if we can ask the experts, then why wouldn't we?
We don't know what we need to know, Kathy.
But
That's
that's
my problem.
what they're
You know,
going
and I
to
don't
be
know, but
hired to
yeah.
tell us, right?
Well, this is why I'm missing so much information, because we brought in a whole new set of ideas here that I never was aware of, that there are ordinances that allow us to put some brakes on activities at the airport or control them in some way. I had not been aware of that. And I'm not saying we're
No,
not going to.
because we haven't had any experts to tell us so.
Well, we do have experts. These are people with experience that can at least say, here's what I've experienced so far. I can't answer that question, but I can answer these three. I mean, that gets me started in terms of understanding something. I feel real blank on this. I mean, I feel like I don't have a starting point. The only starting point I have is that this place was zoned a R1 condominium air park. And whatever those stipulations were, that's what I can understand easily. But then we're getting into some whole new areas here that we wouldn't have to spend a lot of money to know this is the way you ought to go, guys. This is Langworthy says this is the way for you to go. I begin to have a little more confidence in the whole idea.
All right, so let me ask this question. If I request just the limit of $4,000 to get their initial report, that would provide us some significant legal advice. And we can, in parallel, if you want, bring Langworthy back. He has been involved in this. And quite honestly, Alan, we're not talking about the lots that are adjacent to the runways. We were talking about the operation of the runways. So all the prior stuff that you're referring to, which happens to be what the 3 FOIAs have been written on, is what exactly did the Planning Commission approve back in 2002? And we've been going through all those records, and it basically does not talk about anything about the runways.
So you're saying there's no relationship between the outer property and the runways?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that what was asked of the Planning Commission was just related to the lots being converted. And so you can go back. All the minutes are back there. We've gone through them. We've given copies to people, and this FOIA request asks an extended amount of
So
information.
you're only asking then what he can do on the runways to this
That's
firm?
it. I have no concern about the rest of the property. It's all zoned. It's R1, it's commercial, it's timberland. We don't care about that. We only care about what can go on with the runways. And the primary driver was, can he have paramotors or not? And can he camp on it? And are there other things? As a, for instance, they brought up the point that the township has had a private airport, and they ended up having drag races down the runways. Or dirt bike races because it was grass. Now, if he wants to do that, does the township care? I don't know. If they're upset with paramotors, I'm not sure they want to have a motocross racetrack running around the runways. I'm only saying that there's a lot of things that could happen. And what I'm trying to do is understand what the township can do and what Mr. Bays can do with the runways. And it's not his point that he can do anything he wants. And it's not the point that we can stop him from doing anything. And these lawyers have adjudicated these types of cases in the past and understand what we can and what can't do. As a, for instance, one of the things you can do is adjust the flight path coming out of your airport. Well, the township has the right to figure out if there's a no flyover area. We never heard anything like that from Mr. Langworthy. I would like, but I really need this initial work by these guys so that we have parameters to look at. It's one of the things when I talked to Andy Graves of the Planning Commission, it's like, yeah, that would be really important for us to understand, at least on a broad basis, what are we playing? Where are we playing it with this stuff? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I'm just thinking, I just wish I had I just wish I had another step. If somebody like Langworthy, again, I keep repeating his name, but there's other people, said, no, this is the way you ought to go. This is what you need to have. This is where your best education is going to come from. I'd feel more comfortable with that. These guys are going to get, I'm not going to say what they will or will not do. But that's all. I'm just asking I'd like another set of thoughts on this from an advisor and someone who's dealt with airports before from a zoning standpoint. Most of those airports have public runways that have been zoned in different ways. So, and then he may say, with regard to the use of that public runway, what he can do and not do, and in relationship to the surrounding property around it, there is some
Alan,
rules.
it's not a public runway. It's a private airport. There's no public to it, which is why there's no authority associated with controlling it.
Well, but he doesn't pay taxes on the runway. He doesn't own the runways.
Well, that's a debate, I guess.
No, it's
Right.
true. Look up the records.
Well, that's not his point. He owns them.
You need to check on that.
So that's fine. If you want to tell Mr. Bates he doesn't own the.
No, I'm not going to tell Mr. Bays that. I want to
All
help
right.
him. You know what I mean? Don't say
All right,
that.
well then.
What I'm saying is that I'd like to make a good decision for this township, for Mr. Bays, for all the people involved. And I need a little more education, and I'd like to get it from somebody, but then a group of lawyers that are dealing with
The law.
with very, they almost seem like, I don't know.
All right.
Bob, I think we need another step.
Why don't we do what Jairus's guy did? We'll have 3 main questions we can ask this guy. Can you camp?
Well, actually, we did
Keep it-
raise those.
Keep it cheap, or whatever.
Well, that's why if they had come back with a bigger number for the initial study, I wouldn't have taken it. For $3,000 to $4,000, I thought that would be a reasonable estimate to get what they told me they would give me the guardrails that we could then follow. And I thought a $3,000 or $4,000 investment was sufficient for the township to take that step. So that I would.
Kathy's got a question.
What, yeah, I have a recommendation.
Okay.
We've talked about postponing this for a month to get Sharon's input as the treasurer. So if we were to in fact postpone it for a month, then we would have a month that perhaps we could have a special meeting and invite people like Mr. Langworthy, et cetera, whomever. If we're going to wait a month, then maybe we can fit that time in there where Alan can ask some questions or anybody else. Does that sound like an option that might work?
It's an option, you guys.
I mean, I'm okay with the
I
3
like
to,
that idea, Kathy.
I'm okay with the
A
3,000 to
special meeting
4,000.
To do that and have them review. what
Well,
we-
not wait forever.
No, absolutely not.
So,
Well, first of all, we'd all have to agree that we think it's wise to postpone for 1 month to wait for Sharon to come back and give her opinion.
when I spoke to Sharon, and she's not here to speak for herself, we did not get into details of the $20,000, nor did I get into the details of the $3,000 or $4,000, though I did tell her that they came back with their initial study would be $3,000 to $4,000, and I did not get a huge pushback on that.
Okay.
But if you want to wait for Sharon, that's fine.
Well, I'm using her as an excuse maybe to say we're going to wait a month and then that allows some time to get some other questions
Well,
answered.
Kathy, I wouldn't wait a month. I mean, Sharon's going to be back in a week, 2
Monday.
weeks? Monday. So in the meantime, we could contact somebody like Steve. Maybe he doesn't even want to do this. He wants anything to do with it. Or he could recommend somebody and we could then set up an interim meeting before our month is up. And I think after such a meeting, we have somebody to give us some advice. We'll know what to say to this, Bob. Yea or nay? I would.
I disagree with that totally. We've had enough consultants around here and it hasn't built us a foundation that we've been able to spring off of. So,
I don't see, I don't know where that information is.
well, Alan, you've been at plenty of meetings.
I'm okay with the 3 to 4,000. I'm not okay with
Okay.
the 20,000.
All right.
I
then-
think I could agree with that also.
All right, well then, I will make a motion to approve the hiring of the legal firm Barnes and Thornburg LLP to provide aviation legal services to the township related to the Torchport Airport / Air Park as a non-budgeted item with an expenditure approval of $4,000. And period. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. The motion is, I would like to make the motion to approve the hiring of the legal firm Barnes and Thornburg LLP to provide aviation legal services to the township related to the Torchport Airport / Air Park as an unbudgeted item with an expenditure approval of $4,000. Kathy, would you do a roll call
Okay.
vote, please?
So you have that motion written out?
Yes.
Thank you. So Alan, you're first.
I can't support this.
That's an N.
I cannot. The answer is no.
I'm second. I can support the 3 to 4,000, so I say yes. Jason
Yes.
and Bob.
Yes.
So that motion passes 3 to 1.
Any board member would like to sit in on the phone call when we get that report, let me know. I'll make sure you're included.
I would.
All right? Absolutely, Al. All right. Moving on. Item 7. Day park cameras. Bill Peterson and Michael Strange have been working on implementing the camera surveillance system at the day park. I've asked Bill to give us an update. Bill? Didn't mean for you to have to sit so long.
Thought we already did this.
At the day park, the camera, 3/4 of the material that Michael needed as far as cameras and whatnot were in as of this morning. Morrison Electric is going out there Thursday and Friday to run power and Ethernet to the locations needed for Michael. Post is in my possession that 4 of the cameras will be mounted on, and I'll be dropping that off down there the day that they go to plant that. By everything that I'm told right now, it looks like it will be up, running, and all the bugs worked out of it before the 4th. One small concern I had, and I just bring it to the board today, is I drove through there tonight, and we don't have any signs still. There's no handicap parking signs up. There's no lines for that. We're still having to use a sawhorse in the middle of the road to try to direct people into that. And that road's been up for over a month now with the new entrance. And I think the signs are here, but I'm getting awful nervous with these hot days. And I drive down there and people are using it and they seem to be in line and everything, but how come
Was a
I'm
member,
not trying to put anybody on the spot.
as a member of the day park committee,
That's-
let's get Virginia and we'll find out why the signs haven't been put up. Because the signs, I know, Bob, we've received some of the signs.
Yeah.
So let's, I think, give Virginia a call and find out, because she was responsible. I don't want to pass the buck.
No,
but the
I'm not, and I'm
reality
not
is-
either. I spoke to her last week and she said the majority of them were here, but we didn't have stakes, posts, whatever the
Well-
plan was. And like I said, the activity level is definitely increasing and driving through there today.
Give her a call if you would, please. And and see where she stands on that stuff.
Okay.
I think there's a day park committee coming up. I think, isn't there?
I don't
thought-
know that there's anything scheduled. There was one
I
last
thought-
week.
Yeah, there was one when, but I thought there was, we said there for a follow-up meeting. If not, Bill will work on that. Yeah, that's next Tuesday. So let's see, in the meantime, let's get Virginia to be ready to give us an update, see why we don't have them.
Well, and like I said, I'm just bringing it to the board's attention. I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
trying to-
that's fine.
so.
I'm glad you're on the committee with us.
You just hired a new member. I'm officially done.
Oh, no, they haven't approved it
Hey,
yet.
when you put me on there, it was for 3 to 4 months to steer the committee in the
You are
positive direction.
speaking as a member of the day park, because that other member hasn't been approved yet.
Okay.
But,
Any other camera questions?
no, that's good. Thanks, Bill.
Why do I think that we already approved all of this? What am I,
We approved it in the budget as a
You-
discussion. And it was for $5,000.
okay,
And this is going to be closer to 10 by the time we pay the electrical people and
Yeah,
stuff.
you got the electrician bill and,
okay,
So that's
but,
why,
but we've already ordered all the things we need.
yes.
yeah, there was no, by the time
Okay.
this all came to fruition, if we need it for the biggest week of the year.
We
Yeah.
better get going.
Well, it's not
All
only
right.
that, but there was nothing in stock. And as soon as it came in, Michael got a phone call and I said, Michael, go buy it.
Yeah.
You know, don't wait. So
Okay,
we're still waiting for a few odds and ends.
okay.
All right, Bill, thanks.
Can we make the motion?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of an 8-camera surveillance system for the day park with an expenditure limit of 10,000. Current 2022-2023 budget was $5,000.
I'll second that.
Should you just raise it a little bit because we don't have
Well,
bill on the electrical?
well, the total for Michael for his time and for all the equipment is 8,500. Would your bill be greater than 1,500?
They're doing it on a T&M basis. Mike provided half the material. I'm just saying with the way material prices are, the underground, they're going almost 300 feet underground. So
What would your estimate be?
I would just say if you bumped it another 1,500, I'm not trying to give anybody a blank check. It's just, I don't want the office to have to not pay a bill
That's fine.
because it goes over that by the time.
I'm a finance guy. Just tell me what you need me to add.
12,000?
Yeah.
12,000
Alright.
is good. You want me to redo it?
No, we'll just
Okay.
adjust it to 12,000 per the motion, and I will second as well for the $12,000.
Okay.
Any other comments? Hearing none, the motion made is to approve the purchase of an 8-camera surveillance system for the day park with an expenditure limit of $12,000. Current 2022-23 budget was $5,000. Kathy,
It says voice
voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right. Item 8. Sorry, board, we have a lot of just normal business items. This is the employee medical program. We have 5 full-time employees. It is a renewal of the program with our firm, Priority Health. The employee base unfortunately got another year older, and with inflation costs, the overall cost has increased 9.7%. The current estimate is, or fixed bill is $41,680.08. The fiscal year budget was $39,650, which was roughly a 4% increase. So we didn't cover it all with the estimate. Any questions from the board on this? Hearing none, I will make the motion to approve the quote submitted by our current insurance provider, Priority Health, for full-time employees at a cost of $41,680.08, a 9.7% increase. The fiscal year 2022-2023 budget was $39,650. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jason.
Can I ask clarification? That's the township's portion, right? The 41,000, that's our 80%. Yeah.
Kathy, you were in the meeting.
I know, I'm asking for clarification
All right.
because it doesn't say that.
Well, it says that's.
Sort
our
of,
cost.
it's sort of, yeah.
So the
At a
motion
cost.
to approve the quote submitted by our current insurance provider, Priority Health, for full-time employees at a cost of $41,680.08, 9.7% increase. The fiscal year 2022-23 budget was $39,650, was made and seconded. Kathy, would you conduct the roll call vote, please?
I will. Bob, you're first.
Yes.
Kathy says yes. Alan?
Yes,
Jason?
Yes.
That motion is 4-0.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, the next item is personnel. We have another person interested in helping with our scanning project for one day a week. She is the sister-in-law of Linda Woodward, who is currently working on that project along with Virginia Hawkins. She has an IT background, and based on my discussions with Linda, will take about 10 minutes to figure out the scanning.
How's that going?
It's going well. It's what I'm hoping for is, again, as I said in the annual meeting, I want to get that back room done first before we expand it. Kathy has informed me that they are inputting the accounting invoices as they're received now, so that, is an ongoing project. So, we've got most of our records, like the town records, meetings, minutes, and those types of things are loaded. It's really that back room with all the property records, just a ton of stuff.
So has it been a success then?
Very success. We've had some
Good.
questions on property, and they did quick searches first through the software program and came up with the documents. So it worked out very well. But there's just a lot of stuff. Ellen, you know that
oh, yeah.
because you were part of the leader to get this thing done. So anyway, did I have yeah, I need a motion if I could.
Make a motion to approve the hiring of Case Spicer as a scanner at a rate of $16 an hour, effective June 22nd, 2022. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the hiring of Case Spicer as a scanner at a rate of $16, effective June 22nd, 2022. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Kathy, would you conduct a roll call vote, please?
I'm first this time. I will say yes. Alan?
Yes,
Jason?
Yes.
And Bob?
Yes.
That's a 4-0
Thank you.
approval.
Item 10. Currently, we have no backup to our webmaster, Bob Hicks. I discussed this with him, and we agreed that given our greater dependence on our website to communicate to the citizens of our township, the many upcoming events and meetings, it was felt we needed to have a backup for Bob. Michael Strange has experience in this area and has had a working relationship with Bob. Therefore, it was a natural fit to ask Michael if he was interested in performing the backup duties for Bob. He is. He attached his proposal. Is there any discussion related to that?
What does backup mean? Like,
Well, if
He's on
Bob
vacation or
gets
something?
sick or goes on vacation or is out of town, I depend on Bob, especially on Saturdays, because I put everything together on Saturday, so it's on the website Saturday by 2:00. And all your packages are done on Saturday. So he gets all the calls to put the meetings and agendas and stuff for the website, and any changes we make, he puts my letter up there. So he basically controls the website. The issue is it's on a very old format. And so over time, we need to think about what we're going to do to have that. But as of right now, Bob has just been fantastic in serving the community. But if he gets sick, we've got nobody that knows how to make that thing work. I mean, it would go down.
This is true.
well, I can speak for Michael. That guy knows. My business computer was all jammed up and we couldn't figure it out for nothing. We took it to him. And he called me like 3 days later, like, oh man, I don't know, this isn't good. I got one more thing to try. And he called me back like an hour later and he had it all figured out. I mean, I thought we were going to have to buy a new computer.
Is there a motion then to hire Michael Strange?
I can do that.
All right.
Second?
Oh, all right.
You didn't even make
Didn't
it.
read the motion?
Oh, well, it's right there in front of you. The motion to hire Michael Strange as website tech, serving as backup to Bob Hicks at his current hourly rate of $60 an hour. Services will be provided on an as-needed basis.
I'll
That's my
second that.
motion.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded to hire Michael Strange as website tech, serving as backup to Bob Hicks. His current hourly rate of $60 per hour. Services will be provided on an as-needed basis. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Kathy, would you conduct the roll
Yep.
call vote?
Jason?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes?
Kathy says yes. Alan?
Yes.
Thank you, board.
4-0.
Last night, oh no, we got three more.
Oh,
All right. This item was brought to my attention from Sharon, who actually had it raised to her by Alan, that we do not have to have an annual meeting. I worked with Todd and found out very few townships in our state still conduct annual meetings. We did some investigating. It was determined that at one time the board passed a resolution to have an annual meeting. Therefore, by resolution, the board can eliminate the annual meeting. In evaluating this decision, the purpose of the annual meeting was twofold. First, it was to allow citizens to tell the board what they think of where the township is headed and provide feedback on their performance. Second, it was to vote on the salaries of the elected officials. Addressing the first item, we actually have 12 annual meetings, as the citizens have every opportunity at each of the board's monthly meeting to tell us what they think. And it doesn't appear that people are very shy in doing that. As to the second point, in conjunction with the elimination of the annual meeting, I want to create a compensation committee, which the township had at one time, to evaluate what the appropriate pay is for all positions in the township. And that committee will hold public meetings and will be able to take feedback from township residents as to what they think of the performance of the elected officials. The township residents elect the officials to operate the township, and there should be an independent committee setting the pay rates of the township's workers. The compensation committee will consist of 3 residents appointed by the supervisor with approval of the Torch Lake Township Board. Members of the compensation committee shall be appointed no later than August 16th, 2022 at that township board meeting and serve a 2-year term. Any discussion on on that item.
Is that our March meeting? Is that what you're talking about? The annual?
Yeah,
meeting?
that's
Okay.
the annual meeting. That's, you know, I don't have any skin in this game except that I have to prepare a speech for the meeting. You know, and to be honest, you know, people can come and complain at every one of our meetings.
Sure.
We don't need an annual meeting. And to be honest, 60% of the residents aren't there for the annual meeting. So I just, I see no reason to have it. We will have to have the budget meeting. That's a requirement. But the annual meeting is just something that historically was there, and we're one of the last people that have it. In fact, Todd always laughs at me when I talk about the annual meeting because he says, you're the only guys about in the area that have an annual meeting. Now, some do. That's fine, but I present it to the board. It's the board decision. Any other comments?
Are we the only ones that have 12 planning commission meetings too?
Probably.
Well, I think we are.
That's right. You get paid for those. Alan?
I think the people stopped coming to the annual meeting because we changed it to the evening and we stopped serving donuts. Right, Bob?
That was Bob and Tom, and their wives said it was good because they were watching their weight.
Wish they had the donuts.
All right, so I would like to make the motion to eliminate the annual meeting and the establishment of a compensation committee as outlined in my presentation. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jason. The motion has been made and seconded to eliminate the annual meeting and the establishment of a compensation committee as outlined in my presentation. Discussion on the motion?
The only thing I will miss, I'm in agreement with you, is that at the annual meeting, often there was a little more discussion than just a public comment kind of thing. People would discuss things a little bit. And especially when Kathy ran the meeting and we had all go to the audience. And I miss that because we don't have that opportunity to talk back and forth with people very easily. So, yeah, we don't need it anymore. It doesn't work. And like you said, the hearing on our budget is required. And we'll figure that out sometime in March every year when we will have that hearing.
Well, our process for the budget, at least for the rest of my term, is going to be the same thing. We're going to meet in January. I'm going to present it. We're going to get that thing positioned, get it posted. We can have the meeting anytime in March at that point. All right, Kathy, would you conduct the roll call vote?
I
please?
will. Mr. Cook,
Yes.
we left somebody off here. Since we have no Schultz, Miss Wendy Yate, yes. Mr. Martell?
Yes?
Oh, Merchant, you can't vote.
Yes.
Oh, I said you can't,
Why?
because your name's not on the list. Just kidding. So that motion is approved 4-0.
Thank you, board. We have the two items that I added, which are personnel items. For a number of months, I've been asking for people who might be interested in joining our township team to handle the accounting for the township. Deb Broderick expressed an interest recently, and Kathy and I met with her yesterday. Deb is a resident of the township. She also has a home downstate and is retired after a successful business career. She has held positions in major corporations as the chief financial officer, the treasurer, the executive vice president, and operating officer for a major U.S. bank, and is now involved in her own consulting business. She spent time with Kathy yesterday, and I believe can support our township's accounting work and make it more efficient. At our payroll meeting, the schedule for that rate was negotiable, and she has agreed to a $30 rate per hour. Any discussions related to this?
What specifically will be her assignment?
She will be doing everything Dick Williams did, and she will also be responsible for making journal entries for which Kathy would then approve. And what we will be doing is what should have been done a long time ago is differentiating the responsibilities between the clerk and the treasurer. And because the treasurer was making entries for the clerk in the general ledger and the balance sheet, which, since she controls the money coming in, is not a very good standard.
Okay,
And in talking with Trent, he is somewhat comfortable because Sharon is who Sharon is. The reality is that there should be a delineation of duties.
where are you
So,
going to put her?
She will sit at the desk there in the main lobby. And depending on the time period that she works, her first goal, she said, was to get the whole process mapped out. And being an ex-operations manager, that's going to be the first thing. Every step is going to be identified and worked through, and I think it's just going to be a tremendous benefit to us. We're not a big accounting thing, but we're a $1.5 million business. So, someone of her caliber is going to be a real plus for us. No other item, then I will make the motion to hire Deb Broderick as clerk accounting assistant at a rate of $30 per hour effective June 22nd, 2022. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. It's been made and,
Was that Alan? I'm sorry.
yes. The motion has been made and seconded to hire Deb Broderick as clerk accounting assistant at a rate of $30 per hour effective June 22nd, 2022. Kathy, would you conduct a roll call? vote, please?
Can we have discussion first?
Would you like discussion?
I would.
All right.
I went into this kicking and screaming because I didn't think it was necessary. Having met Deb, I can see myself being able to work with her. She's extremely knowledgeable, but her method is that she's a trainer, and she doesn't come at it with attitude about what I do and do not know. She just was very easy to be with, and she explained things as we were going along. We were just looking at our basic BS&A system and how it kind of worked. And, I learned as much from her in an hour of just trying to get to know her and working with her, that I am comfortable in this circumstance with the person. I wouldn't have been comfortable with a lot of people, but I can see that she will be an asset, and it will be nice to have her knowledge in doing those number things that I don't like to do. So I give my approval.
Thank you. Now
Now-
would you conduct the roll call?
Now, well, I don't have anything to work off of, but
I
you
don't,
didn't give us anything, did you?
no, we didn't get any.
No, okay.
Wouldn't have, because it wasn't part of it.
All right, so who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Alan seconded it.
Okay. So I'm first on this sheet, so I will say yes. Alan?
Yes,
Jason?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
So that's a 4-0.
All right, thank you, board.
Do you need this, Veronica? Do you need this?
All right, last item, Sheila Wright has expressed an interest in joining the Day Park Committee. She has already made an effort to evaluate our day park and do independent research as to how to provide ideas for crowd control and park beautification projects, and a willingness to undertake grant work or fundraising activities to provide the necessary funding for such projects that get approved. Any board discussion on Sheila? Without stating it, it does relieve Mr. Peterson of his duties on the day park.
Does Sheila have a friend?
Would you like to explain that comment, please?
I'm
No,
not
don't.
sure. I think
Don't.
we're going to move on. Any other
Okay.
nonsense discussion?
did we approve all the other day park committee members like
We
this?
did.
Did we?
In fact, we
Okay.
did it when we redid the day park.
Okay,
We did
All right.
that in December or January of 2020, 2021.
so the motion was by,
I will make the motion to
Okay,
accept
thank you.
the nomination of Sheila Wright as a member of the Torch Lake Township Day Park Committee. Do I have a second?
I can second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, board.
The only guy left, thanks, Bill.
No, Bob,
Oh, that's right. Forgetting about Bob. What about that?
what about Bob? What about the three Bobs left in the room?
Bob,
All right,
Bob,
so that
Bob,
completes
Bob,
our
Bob, Bob, Bob,
new
Bob.
business section. Thank you, board. Moving on to board discussion.
Three.
Mr. Spencer threw out the gauntlet for the board, and the attorneys that I did talk to said that this township should have a noise ordinance. So I'm in full agreement of proceeding. And the question becomes, it's going to have to be a police power. And does the board want to create that? Do we want to ask the planning commission to create that ordinance?
So what are we talking here?
Well,
Are you telling me you're gonna tell me what time I can start work in the morning?
Probably not, because if I tried to do that, you'd kill me. No, I wouldn't do that.
He'd run
Well,
over you with his
you're,
lawnmower.
what's a noise ordinance mean?
Well, there's parameters around it, and all I'm asking about now is not to discuss what's in it. The discussion is whether or not we want to explore it, either as a board or request the planning commission to do that. So I'm not asking you to approve anything other than, do we want somebody to evaluate whether or not this township will have a noise ordinance or not? So that's all I can't get into it. I mean, Mr. Spencer sent me something that was created back in 2007, I think it was, 2008, a couple of different ordinances, one based on decibel level and one based on the common man evaluation. The real question is, as he accurately pointed out, the township never did anything. So
Well, I don't think there's any of them. Does Milton Township have a noise ordinance? No.
I don't
Elk
know.
Rapids Township? No.
Well, I'm just bringing it up.
Okay.
Jason, this is one of those things where we're not voting on anything
Okay.
that's going to take action. It's just a question of, does the board think we should pursue the discussion of it?
We've brought it up before, and it always got stopped when you say that it's impossible to
Force.
enforce it. That's why it always got stopped before. But it had things like decibels and things in there that how would you enforce
Right.
that?
And
So-
it goes to the issue with the paramotors. When I had a gentleman come in, wanted to have a discussion. And I said, okay, if you want to file a complaint, this is what you got to do. Go out, take a picture when they fly by, so that then we understand what the violation that you're opining. Then you got to run to the airport. You got to wait for that guy to land. You got to make sure you have the right person, the right chute. Then you got to follow him to his car, take the license plate, and try to run it to see who the person is, because they're not going to sit there and give you the license. So, I mean, the enforcement of it is ridiculous.
It's silly.
You can't do it.
Exactly.
So, but the discussion that Mr. Spencer asked us to have is whether or not we want to put a zoning ordinance together that would then be voted on by the board or the planning commission, which would be subject to public hearing, and everybody would get an opinion on it. He's only asking the board to consider taking some level of that action. And Bob, I would only ask if I've got it correct. That's what you're asking us to do.
Yes, you're the ones that have the authority to make that rule.
Right.
Are you gonna stay in Torch Lake Township once your house sells?
If I could make
You can make all the noise you want. We have no ordinance.
All right, so anyway,
So
The dialogue is
who would
yes.
start it then? Like the planning commission would begin?
Oh,
I guess
jeez.
we have an option that we could have the planning commission put something together that would then come as a police.
Or our zoning administrator?
Well, when we did the fireworks, we had the planning commission put it together. and
Start
they
it,
did-
start it.
Yeah,
Okay.
they did all the research, they put it together. Bill Stridiron did a great job in pulling that together and working with the sheriff. So it would be in order that we would put together at the next meeting that we would make that request. This is only for discussion purposes, no action for the board.
Wow, but for the planning commission?
Yeah, and you're on the planning commission.
Yeah. Better ask that herd of deer if the noise is bothering them.
All right, so that was the first one. That we can bring it up at the next board meeting if we wish to take any action on it. Second item is on the community police resource. As it turned out, Brian from Elk Rapids Township, or I'm sorry, Village, called me today, and he hasn't gotten any commitment from Elk Rapids Township or Milton Township. So as far as he's concerned, at this point in time, there is no action that can be taken because he's unwilling to work with us exclusively. So at this point, it's really up to the board if at the July meeting, someone wants to make a motion to consider putting a millage on the vote, on the November ballot, to vote for a millage that might take effect in December of 2023, leaving it up to the board to decide if it's through joint effort or independent action. My take on the public meeting we had was that we should do it in a joint fashion and not independently. I took to heart the 18 points that attorney pointed out that we would have to consider. A lot of responsibility on the township. And I've been asked to communicate with Sheriff Bean to see if in fact there's a way we can work out something with the sheriff's department to maybe do some additional work in the township, primarily during the summer months. That's really when we have the greatest need, watching the day park, watching the speed on a number of the back roads that we have. So that's an update on that. What are your thoughts? Because then I'll know if I need to put some on the agenda. Sharon is against it. So.
Against what? A
It's
millage?
against,
Or the
yeah,
whole
against
idea?
the millage and against the police officer idea. So Kathy, your thoughts?
I'm I'm trying to think. I know that Bob's doing a good job, and my thought all along was that just having a presence of someone at the day park or whatever would help improve behavior. And do we need to go to as far as to have a police officer? I guess I'm still out on the cliff on that one, but I mean, it helps to have Bob down there watching. I know that does. So,
Okay, Alan?
and it's not just the day park.
I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to imply it's just the day park.
No, I know.
Bob, have your experience been good?
Yes. I haven't had any pushback or resistance from anybody I've contacted in any of the duties so far. I haven't personally witnessed any particularly bad things going, and I'm speaking about the day park right now. Haven't witnessed anything really bad in person. We've had some incidences of vandalism, minor vandalism. You know, that's hard to prevent and hard to catch, but, so I guess, yes, to answer your question on the overall, my experience has been like this so far.
So you would, if you had that, you would call the police if you had a problem?
I had any problem with an aggressive individual, I wouldn't attack that problem at all. I would just call the officers.
At one time, Sheriff Bean said if we ever had a issue, like if we were hesitant to go and talk to somebody who has a bunch of trash in their yard, because last time we were there, they came out on the porch and started swearing at us, that he would have a backup for zoning administrator. I think he would do the same for your office as well.
I'm sure they would if I made that call and said that I was, with an aggressive individual, I'm sure they would.
Okay, yeah. Back to what the sheriff doesn't have the bodies. Just hasn't had the bodies in the past years where he can give us some help.
Yeah, he's fully staffed right now, but a lot of them are rookies.
Yeah, they're busy.
Yeah. Jason, I know your thoughts.
I'm with Sharon. I'm against it.
Okay. Then I will not pursue this any further. I will not bring anything to the board next month.
Okay.
Last item on the agenda, information only. But I had one thing. No, I've got nothing. And so citizen comment. You still have your 4-minute limit, so if you want to use it, you can. All right.
Just some information about, you don't have a noise ordinance. And that's what I was always told, and there is no specific noise ordinance. But there are 25 different paragraphs in the existing zoning ordinance that have the word noise. And noise at meaderies, noise at dog kennels. And they use very similar language. You also have 8 paragraphs in your zoning ordinance that talks about sound. Sound emanating from one property cannot interfere with the life and comfort of neighboring properties. Then you have 18 paragraphs that use the word nuisance. Barking dogs can't be a nuisance. A meadery noise event cannot be a nuisance. So I'm just suggesting you pull all that stuff together in one ordinance instead of having it spread out where nobody knows where it is, because you got 140 pages of ordinance you have to dig through to see if it applies to this dog kennel or that meadery. Just have them, that's all.
Suggestion. Thank you.
Couple things. Antrim County bought a new John Deere tractor for our parks, and we got quotes from Work and Play and from Williamsburg. And Williamsburg was able to give us the My Deal price, and Work and Play wasn't. I asked the question of Work and Play because I wanted to keep it in county if possible, but when they go with the My Deal price, it's a substantial savings. Your priority health, your motion, and the page have different numbers. The one says it was a 9.7% raise. The other one says it's a 9.27%. I don't.
Fat fingered it.
Just observation.
Fat
Your
finger.
annual meeting, I've been to like 100 township meetings in my life, and that was the first one I've ever been at. I agree with Alan's comments. You get more interaction. Yeah, you didn't have great turnout, but there was still over 20 people here. So I guess it was hi and goodbye for me. So,
You bring the donuts then.
yeah. I have the road commission bids they were open at a public meeting on June 13 for Golden Beach Drive, Fisher Drive, and Pearl Street. And Reith Riley was the low bidder on all 3. And the good news is all 3 were slightly less than the engineer's estimate. So hopefully you'll have a little more money to do something with the road next year.
What about the other 2? There were 5 altogether. What was that? Circle Street or Stone Circle was one.
The other one you had a bid from the county on was.
Oh, the nature preserve. So they
Were
would
those
do with nature.
gravel or?
Yeah, those are gravel, so you're not.
All right. So what's the total of the 3?
Pearl Street was 43, I can give these to you. I'll give them to you after the meeting. I
All
don't
right.
need to keep them.
That's fine. Because I didn't like the word slightly.
Oh, well, it's, yeah.
I would like substantial.
Pearl Street was 12% less. Golden Beach was 4% less. And Fisher Drive was 15% less.
Ah, good. Well, that's about, rough number, about 10, 12,000 off of 348,000.
When they start fixing Barnes Road?
County road, not a township road,
Yeah, but aren't they, wasn't that thing, no?
not under that.
Some of the townships are starting to fix some of the county roads because they're in such bad shape.
We tried to get, what was the one last year? West Torch Lake Drive, I thought. That was, Lee Scott was all upset about that one. I don't know if was it fixed?
No, nothing's been.
All right. Very good. Anything else?
Just lastly, I think it was Alan that mentioned finding people and getting people for slots. At our last commissioner meeting, we had the Commission on Aging report. We have 23,000 people roughly in Antrim County, and almost 10,000 of them are over the age of 60. So it's no wonder all of our businesses have a hard time finding employees. I mean,
Well, it's true. I mean,
I'm just,
Torch Lake
I
is,
don't have the answer, but
Torch Lake basically is a retirement village.
Our kids are, we're getting faded out. It's truth.
Yeah.
My kids probably won't be able to afford to live around here.
that's all I got.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Bill? I saw you pacing.
Just in true Bob Spencer fashion, I just wanted to point out a few things that I witnessed tonight. As it pertains to the airport, the term was used that we need to keep Mr. Bays in a box. And I've attended quite a few of the special use hearings in which he applied for and followed our procedures for events that he wanted to have there. And those things were approved by our planning commission. And to my knowledge, unless I'm wrong, there has been no violations at that airpart since Mr. Bays has owned it as it pertains to permits, et cetera, that he has obtained. My question is as one of the major landowners now in this township, how did he get put in a box? How did he get put into a category that automatically places him in needing to be zoned around?
So I'll
It
answer
was
that
a
in
free
comments.
will market. It was an airport. He bought it. It'd be the same thing as a farmer moving in and buying another farmer out and changing the operation. It's still agriculture. So I just caution the board and other boards that represent this township of, quote, putting a landowner or property owner who is a taxpayer here in a box, especially one that I don't believe has had any violations issued to him or citations whatsoever since the property has changed hands. If you want to make a zoning change in this township because you feel it's warranted, that's one thing. But just to go out and make a zoning ordinance change, a potential of that, because a piece of property changes ownership, not use, ownership, that to me is wrong. And as living here my entire life and being fortunate enough to be in a place that might lump you into one of the bigger landowners in this township, I'm concerned when I hear this, when's my day coming that this township puts me in a box? Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, we'll go board comment. Alan?
I have none.
Jason?
I have one comment, and I feel like it's a huge problem. and I guess it's not just our township, but it's our county. We've had 3 drownings in Antrim County. And do you know that we don't even have a dive team anymore? Kalkaska County, we have more water frontage anyway, and we have no dive team. And I don't understand it. I don't know if it's the funds or what, but I would,
Charlevoix's the only,
I,
so close.
absolutely. When that 18-year-old boy was drowning off of Easley Road, he had to wait for them guys to get there. He had the North Shore Dock and Hoist cruising around on their barge looking for the poor kid for 2 hours. And I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous that we have all this water frontage and we don't have a dive team. So it's not I guess it's not a village concern. It's a county concern.
Well, it's not only that, there's just nobody volunteering or signing up to do that work. I mean,
Well, I
It's-
mean, I know there's a few of the guys from Antrim County dive team that would still like to do it, but it was canceled.
well,
So I don't know.
we can't speak for Charlevoix.
So I'm proposing Torchlight Township have their own dive team.
Well, put that on the motion next
All right.
time. Put it on the agenda. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if we have any qualified divers, do we? Anybody know?
I don't know, but it's scary that we don't, you know?
Well,
I have never heard Kevin or Ted talk about a guy that in our township is a qualified diver. So we probably don't. We could probably put something out there to see if because I know there are divers in our township, but to go through that to become associated with the rescue group, they probably would not be doing that. I mean, I know guys that go south and dive down there all the time,
All right.
but, would they be willing, when they come up here, to serve as a volunteer? That might be something for Constant Contact, just for the heck of it. Call in all divers. All right, my comment, I will respond to Bill. Mr. Bays and I have very good working relationship, and I told him about the box, and he smiled and said, yeah, I understand. So you may think I'm talking derogatorily, but I'm not. And Mr. Bays and I have talked extensively about how to make sure that there's community and communications between our community and him prior to him doing something. And it's only because things didn't start off on a very good foot, not only on his part, but also on the township part. And so I think I have a good enough working relationship with him to be able to design what I'm talking about as a box. And it's not to preclude him from doing anything. I made that very clear in my opening statement. I want him to be able to do everything he's able to do. But I want to make sure that he doesn't do things he's not supposed to do. And there's not enough expertise in this township to make that decision, which is why I went and got some professional help. Once we have all that, there will be no problems working with Mr. Bays. And quite honestly, I take some pride in the fact that we had a very good Memorial Day activity, and I only had 2 complaints. And one of them even started out by saying, I'm not really complaining. One started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the other one was at 9:15. And not another person texted me during that whole time. Tremendous compliments about the day, the pancake. So I think complaints one was that the paramotor was flying at eye level, and I believe the home was on the bay, and it turned out that flying eye level about 100 feet from the property. And so I asked him to give me a description of what it was. He didn't get a picture. He said, well, it was an orange shoot. Well, there were 2 orange shoots because I went out to the park and I was there at night, and one was orange and white and one was orange, blue, and red. Well, what am I going to do with them? Nothing. So, but I did at least make the effort to follow up on that. The other person wrote at 9:15 because the paramotors were finishing up and coming in and doing their landing. And he couldn't believe that they were still flying, and why doesn't the township stop them? So, you know, I think with time, there's beginning to be a smoothing out to, I think, Jason, it was your point that maybe it's the same people. I do get phone calls from the same people. But my in the box is a description to clearly state what the township can do and can't do to try to control whatever they want to try to control at the airport. And that's my whole goal here. So with that, I will make the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Next time a low helicopter flies by my house.
Hey, I got